I beg your pardon. Good afternoon and welcome to the meeting of Aberfeldy Common Good Fund Committee today, Monday 25th November 2024. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting and to those who are watching or taking part online. Can I ask the clerk to confirm any apologies and a roll call of members who are joining? Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. We've only had one formal apology for this afternoon from Councillor Lang. We have one member joining us online, so I'll just ask if the Provost can hear us.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you. All other members are present in the chambers.
Thank you. Could I ask if there's any declarations of interest in relation to the business before us today?
None.
Okay, thank you very much. The minutes of the previous meeting of the Aberfeldy Common Good Fund of 29th of April are before us. I beg your pardon. Provost McDade.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, no, I just wanted to make a comment that it would be helpful perhaps if all the smaller common goods could get to go first, as the Perth Common Good inevitably always runs over. So I would request perhaps that yourself and approach the committee services about the timings of future common good meetings so that Aberfeldy and Dr. Ardra and other smaller ones get to go at the start and Perth can go last, so they can have as long as they need.
Thanks, Provost. I think you were reading the minds of the elected members in the room, and we had that conversation before the meeting started. Yes, I think that would be a sensible suggestion for future meetings of common good committees. Thank you. Okay, the minutes, of the previous meeting of the 29th of April are before us. Can we approve these minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you. I don't believe there are any matters arising from the minutes. And if not, we will move on to item 5, which is about discussion on common good policy. Members will be aware that up until now, we've tended just to allocate the interest from the capital fund by way of distribution to those applications. However, we've been approached by Aberfeldy Community Council in the case now where the interest rates are significantly higher and that we have a predicted interest amount of £5,700 this year, to look at capping the amount that we provide by way of applications to £1,000 and allowing any interest in excess of that amount to help to build up the capital going forward. Now, this has been done on the back of the Griffin and Calliope Wind Farm Fund, which is currently available in the area, coming to a conclusion probably in the next 7 or 8 years, I think, perhaps. And it would be helpful to look at building up the Common Good Fund capital amount in the interim period so that there is perhaps more money available once the Wind Farm Fund is no longer with us. So that's the proposal. I don't know if there are any questions or any thoughts of members. Thank you.
Seems like a reasonable request. I think we should back it.
Provost McDade.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm quite happy to support something along those lines. I wonder if £1,000 is slightly tight, perhaps. I'm perhaps interested in saying that we'll reinvest a minimum of half of the interest each year until such time as it drops below £1,000. That would at least guarantee that a significant chunk is getting reinvested. I mean, I'm open to flexibility. I agree in principle with the idea of building up the fund, but I don't want to make it so restrictive that there's very little point in people applying to it.
So what you're saying there is would be 50% of interest for the financial year to be considered for retention.
Yes, and that we would review that at the point where the amount available or the amount going into interest falls below £1,000, as it were. So we almost meet the community council at the point where it's, once we're receiving less than £2,000 in interest, and we have less than £1,000 to reinvest and less than £1,000 to hand out.
I think my own feeling on this would be better if we set an amount, and anything above that went into the capital fund. The proposal is obviously for £1,000, and Councillor Williamson is happy to have it set at that amount.
Yeah, I think it seems like a reasonable amount. I mean, we got surplus for last year was what, 2,700, or income was 5,700. So, and I think I can see where the community council is coming from. They're trying to future-proof the common good, so at least they do have an access to funding. And if it means putting the brakes on gently now to achieve that, so that they can have some benefits later on down the line, then I think we should embrace that.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
Very quickly, just as a matter of general policy, there's nothing to, I'm not going to get into, and that's up to local members to decide as to the specific amount or the methodology or whereby you calculate it. But certainly, I certainly know with Strathern Common Good Fund, we restrict it, it's a much smaller fund, to £500 as a cap per application. And I think that certainly seems an appropriate policy to follow, but the actual amount, that's up to you guys.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, in order to move this on, then I would propose that we go with the £1,000 at this point in time. Would I have a seconder for that?
Yes, seconded.
Okay. Are there any other amendments to that? If not, can we agree the £1,000 limit going forward at this point in time?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. Moving forward then on to item 6 is the applications for financial assistance. Is that yourself? Sarah, thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The Aberfeldy Common Good Committee had a projected surplus of £5,700 for 24-25, of which 500 has been committed to date. Today, the committee is being asked to consider one application seeking £2,500 in funding. The application is from the Burke's Cinema Trust, who are seeking £2,500 towards their mezzanine floor extension project. Committee are asked to consider this application and determine the level of any funding to be awarded.
Thank you. I should just point out that in the initial report that went out, there was a typo in the table at 5.7 when it said staff costs of £2,600. That should have been £26,000. But other than that, are there any questions in relation to this report?
I think rather than a question, it's just a comment that's a note that they are short of something of approximately £10,000. That if we were to grant this application, then it would be on condition that the other funders were in place before the funding got released.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Provost McDade.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to agree what will now be £500, obviously, given our previous decision. I'm actually not in agreement with Bailey Williamson's last point, just because if they feel they're in a position to go ahead, they've managed to secure enough money to undertake the building works, you know, based on their current funding, there is a shortfall, but a lot of that shortfall relates to staff costs, etc. So if they feel they're in a position to go ahead rather than the whole project fall apart, I would be happy for the money to be released if they're going to go ahead with it. So I'm content to agree £500.
If I could maybe just ask for some clarification there. In the table, it says that the SSEN Griffin Callagher money is proved towards the total of the staff costs and a contribution to the other costs. So the other costs being the building and professional fees, which aren't fully covered. Would that be correct? Yes. So if we allocated £500, they would still be, I'm not sure my maths is good enough to do this very quickly, but 26, they would have 53,000 roughly from Griffin and 7, so around about £61,000 towards the building and professional fees. I think is what they would have out of a what's that, £78,000 costs roughly. So they would still be short, I'm saying, in terms of giving an award of £500. Any thoughts from members on that?
I think I stand by my original comment. I think, you know, they're still going to be short of capital. Therefore, they can't go ahead until they've secured other funding. Indeed, the papers say they're already discussing it with other funders about getting the funds to bridge the gaps. So I do believe that we should be handing over the money once all the money's in place. And I anticipate the other funders will be probably doing the same thing too.
Yeah. It certainly, as I understand it, no award is actually given until the project is fully funded. It's paid in arrears. Yes, it's paid in arrears. Okay. Is there...
just say I'm quite content with that then.
Sorry, yeah.
I was quite content with that, with the comment that everything's paid in arrears.
Okay, so that's fine. So at the moment, the proposal is £500 then for this grant, and we
I agree.
agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, if we're all agreed, that's fine. Thank you. £500 awarded then. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is the financial statement for 24-25. Alison, I think that's yourself.
Thank you, Convener. This report firstly updates on small movements in position at the end of 23-24 due to an offer declined by Aberfeldy Scouts for £700 and small movements in interest of just over £300. Appendix 1 shows a surplus of £2,700 dependent on the application being addressed today. This has moved from the previous surplus of £5,200. The projected balance at 31st March 2025 is currently £129,326. These numbers will obviously change based on your £500 decision this afternoon. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Alison. Are there any questions? If there are none, can we agree the financial statement?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Thank you. That concludes the business of the Aberfeldy Common Good Fund Committee. Thank you very much.